So, welcome to another turbo edition of the Contessa Answers All. I had a question from one of my patrons about the Giornea, the man's overgarment from 15th century in Italy, and how to construct it. And so I thought I would just do a brief little video explaining the one that I've made for people who might be curious. So here is the Giornea in situ, as it were, in its natural environment. The natural environment is, of course, on a man's body over a farsetto. Of course, this is one of the very typical Florentine style farsettos, nice full sleeves, fitted lower arm. And he's currently wearing it in the semi-open style, so the back is not belted, the front is belted. And you'll see it has these nice pleats in it. But these pleats, this is what I call an unstructured Giornea. These pleats are created by the belt. You just pleat it under the belt and the belt holds them in place. And then when you don't want to have pleats, you just take the belt off. So, not as smoothly as I would have liked. And then it just hangs there like so over the chest. And Giuliano de' Medici is painted wearing his Giornea exactly like this, and it falls in sort of the natural sort of pleats that happen when gravity just takes over. So the garment is cut wider, and then that causes it to fall into pleats and hang there. And as the 15th century progresses, Giornea become less and less structured. Clothing in general becomes less and less structured and much frumpier, to use a very appropriate term. So let's go ahead and take this off and look at it. Oh, there goes the hat. So, this one I have made up in 4 pieces individually and then whip stitched them together. So the lining, we look at it on the ground, just lay it out, get my cameraman to follow me. The pattern for this is based on an extant Giornea from Diego di Cavaniglia, who was a young knight, condottiero, who died very early, at the age of 26, I believe it was, in battle. And he was interred in 1482 in his extremely fashionable and extremely opulent garments, and they mostly survived. So the pattern for mine is based on that particular garment. So this one consists of a heavier upholstery fabric on the outside. This was a test piece, so it's not made with necessarily the best materials. I'll be remaking this in a nice silk one. But it is fully interlined in linen, which is attested to in some of the sources, documentary sources. And each piece is made up separately, completely separately, and then whip stitched together. So you can see the whip stitching here at the shoulder seams, right? And you can barely see the whip stitching going down the center seam. It's very, it vanishes into the fabric, really, especially this because it's kind of cushy. So each piece is interlined in linen, and that interlining helps add bulk, so that it forms those nice pleats. The neckline is finished in basically I cut strips of this silk on the bias so that it would go around the neckline quite nicely without needing any weird pleating. There are some scraps left that have been found in grave finds and in the River Thames that indicate that this was very probably a way of finishing necklines and also thereby giving it a nice decorative finish. Right. And then at the hem, I have done the same thing. It's long strip of the same silk cut on the bias, sewn onto one side and then folded on the other and whip stitched into place, or blind stitched. My stitches are blind stitched. I did a blind stitch here. So that is how one makes an unstructured Giornea. Now note on the neckline, the back is I made this in 2007, and just now that finger loop weaving finally gave up the ghost. Well, I guess I wanted to redo it anyway. There, you've seen it live, wear and tear of garments. So, I think I've probably danced hundreds of thousands of miles in that thing. The neckline on the back of the Giornea is a V that follows the V of the inserted collar on the gentleman's farsetto, as you can see here in this picture. So the front is a much more shallow U that is designed to sit right up against where the collar of the farsetto ends and the body of the farsetto begins. So it's supposed to follow that line exactly, as you can see in this portrait, just like that. Unfortunately, I cut this without my beloved husband being present, so it doesn't quite fit that way. But the one I remake will fit more perfectly in that manner, because this really should sit right here. It shouldn't come down like this. So that has been your tour of a Giornea in the style of the 1470s. I hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe.